You sent $50 for their wedding anniversary? My dad Michael's voice echoed through the restaurant, loud enough for neighboring tables to turn and stare. Chloe just put down $20,000 as a down payment for their new house. I sat frozen, my cheeks burning with embarrassment as my extended family watched the scene unfold. That was me, I whispered, the words barely audible over the clatter of dinner plates. Mom Linda's face darkened immediately. Stop lying, Madison. Why can't you just be happy for your sister's success? That was the moment I decided to stop the payments. 4 years and $240,000 later, I was finally done enabling my family's delusion. If you've ever felt like the invisible child in your own family, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe to follow my journey of reclaiming my self-worth. My name is Madison, and I am 30 years old. I built a successful career in digital marketing despite growing up in the shadow of my seemingly perfect sister, Chloe. I thought I had made peace with my parents always favoring her, until last month at my cousin's wedding reception. But before I tell you about that devastating night, let me take you back to where this all began. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Denver, our family of four looked picture perfect from the outside. My parents had both worked their way up from modest backgrounds. Dad Michael managed a construction company, while Mom Linda taught elementary school. They were hardworking, dedicated parents who believed in the American dream of providing better opportunities for their children. And at the center of their dreams was my sister, Chloe, just 3 years younger than me, but somehow always the star of every story. From my earliest memories, there was always something different about how my parents treated Chloe. It started with little things that most people would dismiss as normal family dynamics. When Chloe wanted my art supplies, Mom would say, "Madison, sharing shows you care. You're the big sister. You need to set a good example." When Chloe accidentally ruined my science fair project the night before it was due, Dad explained patiently, "She's still learning, Madison. You should have put it somewhere safe." By age 8, I had learned that Chloe's needs always came first. My outgrown clothes automatically became hers, but when shopping season arrived, Chloe received brand new outfits while I got hand-me-downs from our older cousins. "We need to save money for your college fund," Mom would explain. But somehow that same logic never applied when it came to Chloe's expenses. Christmas mornings and birthdays told the same heartbreaking story. On my 11th birthday, I unwrapped a set of educational workbooks because they would help with my grades, while Chloe received the art set I had been circling in catalogs for months. When I couldn't hide my disappointment, Dad pulled me aside and said, "A smart girl like you should value education over toys, Madison." The pattern continued through every aspect of our childhood. I was expected to help with household chores, load the dishwasher, and organize family events by age 12. These same responsibilities somehow never extended to Chloe, even when she reached the same age. I had a 9 o'clock curfew throughout middle school, while Chloe was allowed to stay out until 10:30 starting in 6th grade. The explanation was always the same. "You're more responsible, Madison. We trust you to understand." One memory stands out with painful clarity. When I was 14, I won first place in a regional debate tournament after months of preparation. The final round was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon, and I had reminded my parents about the date countless times. That morning, Chloe woke up with a mild headache and general complaints of not feeling well. Nothing serious, just typical teenage drama. Our neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, who had always been like a grandmother to us, immediately offered to stay with Chloe for the 3 hours my parents would be gone. "We can't leave your sister when she's not feeling well," Mom declared, ending the discussion before it could begin. "You understand, right? Family comes first." I competed in front of a room full of strangers that day, accepting my gold trophy with a practiced smile while scanning the audience for faces that weren't there. When I returned home hours later, Chloe was perfectly fine, watching television and eating ice cream, her mysterious illness completely forgotten. No one asked about my performance. No one wanted to see my trophy. As we entered high school, the differences in treatment became even more obvious. I maintained a 4.0 grade average while participating in student government, debate team, and volunteering at the local animal shelter on weekends. My accomplishments were met with brief nods and casual acknowledgments. That's what we expect from you. Meanwhile, Chloe struggled to maintain a 3.0 average, but her C+ in chemistry was celebrated with a special dinner out because science is so challenging. Her minor role in the school musical warranted a family celebration complete with flowers and a professional photographer. When I was accepted to all 6 universities I applied to, including 2 prestigious programs, Dad simply said, "Good. Now we need to research scholarship opportunities because we can't afford full tuition anywhere." 2 years later, when Chloe was accepted to just one state school, my parents planned a weekend trip to celebrate, complete with a shopping spree for dorm room decorations. The most painful part was that I genuinely loved my sister. Chloe was naturally charismatic, creative, and had an infectious laugh that could brighten any room. She possessed an artistic talent that I truly admired and a warmth that drew people to her effortlessly. It wasn't her fault that our parents had placed her on a pedestal. In quiet moments when we were alone together, we would share secrets and dreams like sisters should. But those precious moments became increasingly rare as the years passed, and our roles in the family became more solidified. By 17, I had learned to find validation outside my family circle. My teachers recognized my potential, offering mentorship and genuine encouragement that was missing at home. My close friends provided the emotional support and recognition I craved from my parents, but never received. I worked part-time jobs throughout high school, babysitting for neighbors and tutoring younger students, saving every dollar in a private account my parents knew nothing about. I was preparing for independence long before I actually left home, instinctively understanding that I couldn't rely on my family for the same support they would undoubtedly provide for Chloe. The day I left for the University of Colorado was surprisingly unemotional. Mom packed me a basic lunch for the 2-hour drive to Boulder, while Dad loaded my modest belongings into our family van. These consisted mainly of clothes, some books, and a few personal items that could fit in 3 suitcases. Chloe hugged me tightly at the door and whispered, "I'm going to miss you so much." Those were the only words that brought tears to my eyes that morning. The drive was mostly silent. Dad commented on traffic patterns and gas prices. Mom reminded me to call once a week and to focus on my studies. Neither asked about my feelings regarding this major life transition or offered reassurance about the challenges ahead. When we arrived at my dormitory, they helped carry my belongings to my room, met my roommate Sarah with polite smiles, and then immediately checked their watches. "We should head back before evening traffic gets heavy," Dad announced after less than an hour on campus. Mom handed me a small envelope containing $300 for emergencies, she explained. Then they were gone, leaving me alone in a new environment that felt both terrifying and liberating at the same time. My academic scholarship covered 75% of tuition, but textbooks, supplies, and living expenses quickly consumed my savings. Within 3 weeks, I had secured multiple part-time positions, early morning shifts at the campus coffee shop, afternoon hours working in the admissions office, and weekend data entry work for the business department. Between classes and work commitments, I averaged about 5 hours of sleep per night. Meanwhile, my weekly phone calls home were dominated by updates about Chloe's senior year activities and my parents' plans for visiting colleges with her the following spring. "We want to make sure she finds the perfect fit," Mom explained during one call. "Dad is taking vacation days for the campus tours." I didn't mention that no one had taken time off for my college search process. Instead, I asked practical questions about accessing my health insurance information and whether textbook expenses could be claimed on their tax return. By my second semester, I had developed a survival routine that would define my entire college experience. Study at the library until closing time, continue working in the 24-hour student center until dawn, shower at the campus recreation center, work the morning coffee shop shift, fueled by free caffeine, attend classes, take brief naps between lectures when possible, work the afternoon shift, study during dinner. Repeat daily. My roommate Sarah began leaving encouraging notes on my desk and occasionally bringing me actual meals when she noticed I was surviving primarily on protein bars and campus coffee. She became my first real source of emotional support during those challenging years. My professors noticed my dedication as well. Dr. Martinez, my marketing professor, asked me to stay after class one day during my sophomore year. "Your work is exceptional, Madison, but you look exhausted. Are you taking care of yourself?" That simple question nearly broke through all my carefully constructed emotional barriers. I managed to maintain my composure while explaining my work schedule and financial situation. She listened thoughtfully before suggesting a paid research assistant position that would pay better than my current jobs and provide valuable experience for future career opportunities. "You have real talent for strategic thinking," she told me, "but sustainable success requires balance. Burnout is a real danger." Her mentorship changed my entire trajectory. The research position not only improved my financial situation significantly, but also connected me with influential professors and industry professionals. I was able to reduce my other work commitments and occasionally achieve 6 hours of sleep instead of 5. Back home, Chloe had been accepted to Colorado State University with a partial scholarship for her artistic abilities. My parents took out a substantial second mortgage on their house to cover her remaining expenses, including an off-campus apartment because dormitory life would be too stressful for her creative process. During our weekly phone conversations, Mom would detail the shopping expeditions for Chloe's apartment decorations and the special send-off party they were planning for her high school graduation. "Will you be able to come home for Chloe's graduation ceremony?" Mom asked during one call. "I can't," I replied honestly. "I have final exams that week, and my research project presentation is the same day." The disappointment in her voice was unmistakable. "Family should come first, Madison. You're always choosing other priorities over us." I didn't remind her that no one had attended my own high school graduation dinner because Chloe had a dance recital scheduled the same evening. Some battles weren't worth fighting. As my college years progressed, our family phone calls became shorter and less frequent. I immersed myself completely on campus activities, joining the marketing club and discovering a genuine passion for digital strategy and consumer behavior analysis. I dated occasionally, but kept relationships casual, finding it difficult to trust anyone with my deeper emotions and family history. My focus remained primarily on academic excellence and building professional connections that could lead to career opportunities. During my junior year, Chloe decided that Colorado State wasn't providing the right environment for her artistic development and transferred to the Art Institute of Chicago to study graphic design. This required additional financial support from our parents, which they provided without question or hesitation. Meanwhile, I was applying for competitive summer internships to strengthen my resume and future earning potential. When I secured a prestigious internship with a major advertising agency in Denver, I called home excitedly to share the news. Dad answered with a distracted greeting, and I could hear Chloe talking animatedly in the background about some art project. "Dad, I got the internship with Morrison Creative Agency. Only 6 students from the entire university were selected." "That's nice, Madison," he replied absently. "Can I call you back later? We're helping Chloe prepare her portfolio for a gallery submission. It's really important for her career." He never called back. By my senior year, I had multiple job offers from respected marketing firms throughout Colorado and beyond. I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in marketing and a minor in business analytics, achievements that represented 4 years of relentless dedication and sacrifice. My parents attended my graduation ceremony, arriving late and leaving immediately afterward to catch their flight back to Denver. The celebration dinner was at a restaurant near campus, paid for entirely with my internship earnings. Mom spent most of the meal showing me photos of Chloe's latest artwork and explaining how they were helping her network within Chicago's art community. She's struggling a bit with some of her technical courses, but her professors say she has incredible natural vision. We're so proud of her artistic development. And are you proud of me too? I asked, quietly, surprising myself with the vulnerability in my voice. Dad looked up from his meal, appearing genuinely confused by the question. Of course. You've always been good at school. That's just what you do. Just what I do. Not an achievement to be celebrated or admired, simply an expected outcome. I accepted a position with Sterling Digital Marketing in Denver, not telling my parents that one of the reasons for choosing that location was to be closer to my family. Despite everything, I still hoped that geographical proximity might help rebuild our relationships as adults. The starting salary was impressive for a new graduate, $68,000 annually. I found a modest but comfortable apartment in the downtown area and threw myself into work with the same intensity I had applied to my studies throughout college. Within 8 months, I was outperforming colleagues with years more experience. My direct supervisor, Rebecca, became another crucial mentor, guiding me through corporate dynamics and encouraging me to speak up in meetings often dominated by more senior team members. You have incredible instincts for consumer psychology, she told me during one of our monthly reviews. But you need to learn to take credit for your innovative ideas. I notice you often develop brilliant strategies and then let others present them. That pattern has to change if you want to advance. Her observations struck a nerve. I had been conditioned my entire life to believe that my contributions were simply expected, not worthy of special recognition or praise. Learning to advocate for myself would prove to be one of my greatest professional challenges. 3 years into my career at Sterling Digital, I had already received 2 significant promotions. I had advanced from junior marketing coordinator to senior strategist, and then to account manager, much faster than the typical progression timeline. My starting salary had grown to $95,000, plus substantial performance bonuses and profit-sharing opportunities. I had moved to a better apartment with downtown views and started building a respectable investment portfolio. My professional life was thriving beyond my wildest college dreams. My relationship with my family remained distant but cordial. Weekly phone calls had become monthly conversations. Visits home happened only during major holidays, and even then they were brief and somewhat strained. Chloe and I occasionally met for coffee when she visited Denver, but our conversations remained surface level. She would talk about art galleries and creative projects while I listened and paid for our drinks. She rarely asked about my work or personal life in any meaningful detail. Then, during one of our monthly family calls, Mom mentioned something that immediately caught my attention and concern. Your father had to cut back his hours at the construction company, she said casually, as if discussing the weather. His doctor is worried about his blood pressure levels and insisted he reduce his stress. Is he okay? I asked immediately, genuine worry flooding through me. He'll be fine, Mom assured me quickly. But with the reduced income and Chloe needing help with her Chicago rent again, finances are getting a bit challenging right now. This was the first I had heard about any financial difficulties. I knew that supporting Chloe through multiple school changes and her ongoing artistic pursuits had been expensive, but I had assumed my parents were managing their budget successfully. How challenging is challenging? I pressed for more specific information. Mom hesitated before admitting that their mortgage payment had been late twice in recent months, and they had been using credit cards for some medical expenses not fully covered by their insurance plan. I made an immediate decision that would change everything. Mom, I want to help financially. I'm doing really well at work, and I can send money each month to help with your expenses. No, Mom protested quickly. You should be saving your money for your own future. We'll figure something out. But I insisted firmly. The next day, I set up an automatic monthly transfer of $2,000 directly to my parents' checking account. I structured it as an anonymous transfer, listing only family support in the description line. I didn't want them to feel obligated to thank me constantly, or even worse, to suddenly show interest in my life primarily because of financial contributions. The help should be unconditional, just as their support of Chloe had always been throughout her life. 6 months later, after receiving another substantial promotion and salary increase, I raised the monthly amount to $4,000. The payments represented about 25% of my take-home income, a significant sacrifice even with my improved financial situation. But knowing my parents had greater financial security gave me genuine peace of mind and satisfaction. During my brief Christmas visit home that year, I noticed subtle but meaningful improvements in their living situation. The kitchen appliances had been updated. Dad mentioned having completely paid off 2 of their credit cards. Mom was considering reducing her substitute teaching hours to focus on her health and hobbies. They seemed noticeably less stressed about money, and that made every dollar of my sacrifice feel worthwhile. At Christmas dinner that evening, Dad raised his wine glass in a heartfelt toast. "We've been truly blessed this year," he said with emotion, "especially thanks to our Chloe." I looked at my sister across the table, completely confused by his statement. "Chloe has been sending us money every month," Mom explained with obvious pride. $4,000. Can you believe how successful her freelance graphic design business has become? She says clients in Chicago pay premium rates for quality work. I nearly choked on my drink. Chloe caught my eye across the table and quickly looked away, a deep flush spreading across her cheeks. "That's amazing," I managed to say, my voice sounding strained even to my own ears. "I had no idea your business was doing so well." "She insists on keeping the bank transfers anonymous," Dad added admiringly. "So humble, never wanting recognition or praise. That's our Chloe, always thinking of family first." The irony was almost unbearable. Chloe was taking complete credit for my financial support, while, according to her social media posts and our occasional conversations, she was actually struggling to find consistent freelance work in Chicago's competitive design market. Her LinkedIn profile listed her as an independent graphic designer, but I had never heard her mention any actual clients or completed projects during our talks. Later that night, I confronted Chloe privately in the kitchen while our parents were sleeping upstairs. "You told them you're the one sending the money?" I kept my voice low, but couldn't hide my anger and hurt. "I didn't tell them directly," she whispered defensively. "They just assumed it was from me because the transfers were anonymous and I just didn't correct their assumption." "Why would you do that?" I demanded. "That money comes from my hard work, my sacrifices. I send it because I care about Mom and Dad, not for recognition, but it's still my contribution, my choice to help." Tears filled her eyes as she tried to explain. "You don't understand what it's like, Madison. You've always been the smart one, the successful one, the responsible daughter. Mom and Dad talk about your marketing career like you're some business genius. I have nothing impressive to show for myself. When they assumed the money came from me, for once they looked at me with real pride, not just because I'm their creative baby, but because I had actually accomplished something meaningful." Her explanation left me speechless and emotionally devastated. In her mind, I was the favored child, the golden standard she could never measure up to or compete with. Our perceptions of our family dynamics were completely opposite and contradictory. "Chloe, that's not true at all," I protested. "They've always preferred you, always made excuses for your mistakes, always celebrated your smallest achievements while expecting perfection from me without acknowledgement." She shook her head stubbornly, tears streaming down her face. "That's not how it feels to me at all. You're wrong." We reached no resolution that night. I returned to Denver feeling conflicted, hurt, and emotionally drained, but still unwilling to expose Chloe's deception to our parents. Despite my anger and disappointment, they were still my family, and I didn't want to damage their relationships or cause unnecessary drama. The money was genuinely helping my parents maintain their lifestyle and reduce their stress, and that had been my original goal. Did it really matter who received the credit? So I continued the monthly transfers, telling myself that family support transcended personal recognition.
Each time I processed the payment, I experienced a complex mix of resentment, resignation, and what I tried to convince myself was mature acceptance. This pattern continued for nearly 3 years, during which my career continued to flourish, while Chloe bounced between various freelance projects and creative endeavors that never quite materialized into stable income or professional success. During those years, I threw myself even more intensely into my professional development. I rarely dated seriously, turned down social invitations, and built few meaningful friendships outside of work-related connections. My apartment was beautifully decorated but rarely saw visitors or social gatherings. My life appeared successful by every external metric, but felt increasingly empty in ways that truly mattered for long-term happiness and fulfillment. Each monthly family call brought updates about how Chloe remained the absolute center of my parents' universe. They traveled to Chicago to attend her art installations and gallery openings, but never contacted me during these visits to our shared home state. They remembered her birthday with elaborate gifts and surprise parties, while sending me generic gift cards with brief notes. They continued to praise her supposed generosity in supporting them financially, never knowing or questioning the true source of their improved circumstances. I told myself repeatedly that recognition didn't matter. I convinced myself that I had made peace with my designated role in our family dynamics. I insisted to myself that I was above needing their approval or acknowledgement. I was lying to myself about all of it. My work performance remained exceptional, earning me another promotion to senior account director with a team of 8 junior marketers reporting to me. The salary increase was substantial, bringing my annual income to $135,000 plus performance bonuses that often exceeded $20,000. But success felt hollow when there was no one genuinely close to celebrate achievements with or share the challenges of increased responsibility. I started seeing Dr. Williams, a therapist who specialized in family dynamics and workplace stress. Initially, I framed our sessions around managing professional pressure and work-life balance issues. "Tell me about your support system," she asked during our 3rd session. "Who celebrates your victories with you?" The question caught me off guard. "I don't really need external validation," I replied automatically. "I'm pretty self-sufficient." Dr. Williams raised an eyebrow. "Everyone needs connection and recognition, Madison. That's basic human psychology. Self-sufficiency is admirable, but complete emotional independence usually indicates unresolved trauma or learned survival mechanisms." Over the following months, our sessions gradually revealed the depth of emotional neglect I had experienced throughout my childhood, and the ways it continued to impact my adult relationships and self-worth. "You've learned to equate love with utility," Dr. Williams observed. "Your value in the family was based on what you could provide or achieve, not on your inherent worth as a person. That's why you're unconsciously recreating that pattern in your adult life." The insight was both illuminating and painful. I had indeed structured my entire identity around being useful, productive, and low maintenance. I avoided asking for help, minimized my own needs, and struggled to accept genuine care from others. Last spring marked my parents' 32nd wedding anniversary. Mom had been planning an elaborate celebration for months, inviting relatives from across Colorado and even some family friends from their early married years. The event would be held at a rented banquet hall near their Denver home, and attendance was mandatory for all family members. No exceptions would be accepted. I requested time off work, booked a flight from a business trip I'd be returning from, and reserved a hotel room rather than staying in my childhood bedroom, knowing that 3 days in that environment would be emotionally overwhelming. Chloe called me the week before the celebration, unusually excited about the planning details. "Are you looking forward to the anniversary party?" she asked enthusiastically. "Mom has been obsessing over every detail for months. I helped design the invitations and decorations. It's going to be absolutely beautiful." "Sounds wonderful," I replied, trying to match her enthusiasm. "Do Mom and Dad need help with any remaining expenses?"
I could contribute to the catering costs or venue rental. No need, Chloe said quickly and confidently. I've taken care of all the major expenses. You know, from my monthly family support contributions. I just redirected some of that money toward party planning instead of their regular bills. The casual way she claimed ownership of my financial sacrifice still stung deeply, but I had grown somewhat accustomed to her appropriation of my contributions over the years. That's very thoughtful of you, I said flatly, ending the conversation as quickly as possible. The day of the anniversary celebration arrived with perfect late spring weather. I wore a sophisticated emerald green dress, professional but elegant, my emotional armor for extended family gatherings where I inevitably felt like an outsider. When I arrived at the beautifully decorated venue, the celebration was already in full swing. Approximately 70 people filled the hall, many faces I barely recognized from childhood memories and infrequent holiday gatherings. Mom spotted me first, waving enthusiastically from across the room where she stood with a cluster of her sisters and childhood friends. Her face looked genuinely happy and relaxed, younger somehow than I remembered from recent visits. The financial security of recent years had clearly reduced her chronic stress and worry about money. "Madison, you made it!" She embraced me briefly before immediately turning to her audience. "This is my older daughter, the marketing executive in Denver. She manages major corporate accounts." "Account director," I corrected automatically, though no one seemed particularly interested in the distinction. "Such a serious career woman," one aunt commented with a tone that made professional success sound like a character flaw. "Still single, I assume, always working." Before I could formulate a response, Mom was already redirecting the conversation toward more interesting topics. "Have you seen the memory slideshow Chloe created? She spent weeks collecting photos from our entire marriage and set it to music. So creative and thoughtful." I excused myself to find Dad, who was entertaining a group of his former coworkers near the bar area, telling animated stories about home renovation projects and weekend fishing trips. He paused when he noticed me approaching, offering a brief side hug that felt more obligatory than affectionate. "Madison, there you are. When did you get here? The party started 2 hours ago." "My flight was delayed, Dad," I explained, not mentioning that I had actually arrived exactly on time according to the invitation. Traffic from the airport was heavier than expected. "Well, you're here now. Get yourself a drink. We'll be doing the formal toasts soon." Throughout the evening, I moved between conversations, always feeling slightly on the periphery of family dynamics. Relatives asked polite but superficial questions about my career without waiting for detailed answers. Several people commented on how I had always been the studious, responsible one, while Chloe was the creative, fun-loving daughter who brought joy to every gathering. I maintained a pleasant smile and kept my responses brief and diplomatic.
The formal program began with a series of heartfelt toasts to my parents. Various family members and longtime friends shared touching memories and congratulations. Uncle Robert spoke about Dad's work ethic and integrity. Aunt Patricia reminisced about Mom's kindness and hospitality over the decades. Chloe delivered an emotional speech about our parents' loving example and how their marriage had taught her the importance of family loyalty and support. Her words were beautifully crafted and genuinely moving, receiving enthusiastic applause from the entire gathering. When my turn came, I spoke about their perseverance through challenges and their dedication to building a stable home for our family. I mentioned their immigrant work ethic and the values they had instilled in both their daughters. The response was polite, but notably less enthusiastic than the reaction to Chloe's presentation. After the formal toasts concluded, the gift presentation ceremony began. Most relatives had brought symbolic or sentimental presents: photo albums, handcrafted items, framed poems, and commemorative keepsakes representing shared memories. I had arranged for a large floral arrangement to be delivered that morning and brought with me an elegant anniversary card containing a check for $50, a symbolic amount representing good luck, rather than my primary gift contribution. I plan to discuss setting up a vacation fund for them privately, away from the public gift-giving spectacle. When Dad opened my card in front of the gathered crowd, his expression immediately shifted from anticipation to confusion, then disappointment, and finally to visible anger. "You sent $50 for their wedding anniversary?" he shouted, his voice carrying across the entire venue and causing conversations to halt mid-sentence. Every person in the hall turned to stare at our family drama unfolding in real time. Chloe just put down $20,000 as a down payment for their new house. A horrified silence descended over the immediate area. I felt blood rushing to my face as dozens of eyes focused on me with judgment and disappointment. The shame was overwhelming and immediate. "That was me," I said quietly, the words escaping before I could stop them or consider the consequences. Mom stepped forward quickly, her face flushed with embarrassment and annoyance. "Stop lying, Madison," she snapped harshly. "Why can't you just be happy for your sister's success instead of trying to steal her credit?" Murmurs and whispers began spreading through the crowd like wildfire. I could hear fragments of conversations. "Always been jealous. Such a shame. Poor Chloe." Uncle Robert patted my shoulder awkwardly, his expression a mixture of pity and disapproval. "No need to be envious of your sister's achievements, Madison. You have your corporate career, and she has her artistic talents and business success. Different paths, both valuable." I stood frozen in place, humiliation washing over me in waves that seemed to intensify with each passing second. Chloe had mysteriously disappeared from the immediate area when the conversation turned to financial contributions, conveniently avoiding the confrontation she had helped create. Dad was still glaring at my check as if it were a personal insult rather than a thoughtful gesture accompanying my real intentions for their gift. "I need some air," I managed to say, turning away from the judgmental stares and hushed comments that were growing louder and more critical by the moment. Outside in the parking lot, I gulped the warm evening air, fighting back tears that threatened to ruin my carefully applied makeup, and composed myself before facing the ride home. My phone buzzed with a text message from Sarah, my old college roommate and one of the few people who truly understood my family dynamics. "How's the family celebration going?" she had written with a smiling emoji. I typed back with shaking fingers. "They think I gave them $50 as an anniversary gift while believing Chloe has been supporting them financially for years with my money. I can't do this anymore." Sarah's response was immediate and supportive. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. That sounds absolutely devastating. What are you going to do now?" A strange sense of calm and clarity settled over me as I made my decision in that parking lot. I was done enabling this dysfunctional dynamic. I'm going to stop the payments. All of them. Immediately. I opened my mobile banking application right there in the parking lot and canceled the automatic transfer that was scheduled to process in just 5 days. 3.5 years, and over $160,000 later, I was finally cutting the financial cord that had been binding me to this toxic family dynamic. The relief was immediate and surprisingly intense. I felt as if a physical weight had been lifted from my chest, allowing me to breathe freely for years. I didn't return to the anniversary celebration. Instead, I called a rideshare service to take me directly back to my hotel, sent a brief text message to Chloe explaining that I had developed a severe headache and needed to rest, and ordered room service to my room. That night, I slept more peacefully than I had in months, as if my body was finally releasing years of accumulated stress and emotional tension. The next morning, I changed my flight to return to Denver immediately rather than staying for the planned family brunch. I needed distance and time to process everything. No one called to check on my supposed headache or ask why I had disappeared from their celebration. No one seemed to notice or care that I had left the city entirely without saying goodbye. I was invisible to my family except when I was being criticized or compared unfavorably to Chloe's fabricated achievements. On the flight home, I made several additional decisions that would reshape my relationship with my family permanently. I would wait patiently to see what happens when the financial support suddenly stops flowing. I would wait for them to contact me directly rather than always being the one to initiate communication. Most importantly, I would finally prioritize my own emotional well-being over maintaining peace in a family system that had never truly valued or appreciated my contributions.
Exactly 28 days after the anniversary celebration, my phone rang with my parents' home number displayed on the screen. It was the first time they had initiated contact since I had left Colorado in anger and humiliation. I let the phone ring several times, my finger hovering over the decline button as I debated whether I was emotionally prepared for this conversation. Finally, I answered. "Hello, Madison." Dad's voice sounded strained and uncomfortable, lacking his usual confident tone. "Hi, Dad. How are you and Mom doing?" I kept my voice neutral and professional, revealing nothing about my emotional state or intentions. "We're concerned," he said, clearing his throat nervously. "There seems to be a problem with Chloe's monthly financial transfer. It didn't arrive on the 1st as it usually does, and it's been almost a month now." So they still believed completely that the money had been coming from Chloe. Despite everything that had happened at the anniversary party, the assumption remained unchanged. "That is strange," I replied, keeping my voice steady and controlled. "Have you contacted Chloe directly about the missing payment?" "We have," he admitted, "but she says there must be some kind of banking error or technical problem. She promised to investigate it, but it's been weeks now, and we have financial obligations that were depending on that monthly support." I closed my eyes, gathering my emotional strength and resolve for what I needed to say next. "Dad, I need to tell you something very important," I began carefully. "Those monthly transfers were never from Chloe. They were from me. I've been sending you $4,000 every month for the past 3.5 years.
Silence filled the phone line for what felt like an eternity. Then came a short, uncomfortable laugh from my father. "That's not funny, Madison. Why would you say something like that about your sister? This isn't the time for jokes." "It's not a joke, Dad. I can prove every word I'm saying. I have detailed records of every single transfer from my personal checking account to yours since March 3.5 years ago. Originally $2,000 per month, then increased to $4,000 after my promotion to senior account director." "This is ridiculous." Dad's voice hardened with disbelief and growing irritation. "Are you so jealous of your sister's business success that you would fabricate stories to discredit her accomplishments? I expected better maturity from you, Madison." His immediate dismissal of my truth was exactly what I had feared, and precisely why I had never corrected their false assumption years earlier. But I was completely done being invisible and dismissed. "Check your bank statements, Dad. The transfers come from account number ending in 7492. That's my personal checking account at First National Bank. I can email you all the confirmation receipts and transaction records right now if you need concrete proof." "I don't need to check anything," he insisted stubbornly, but I could hear uncertainty creeping into his voice. "Chloe told us all about her freelance graphic design business expanding. She has major corporate clients in Chicago paying premium rates for her creative work." "Then why is her LinkedIn profile still listing her as seeking opportunities?" I challenged directly. "Why has she asked me for personal loans 3 separate times in the past year that she's never repaid? Why did she move to a significantly cheaper apartment last month? Why can't she name a single actual client when I ask about her supposed business success?" The pointed questions tumbled out. Years of careful observations I had kept to myself, finally being voiced aloud. Dad had no immediate response to my evidence. I could hear Mom's voice in the background asking what was wrong, her tone increasingly worried and confused. "I'm sending you the proof right now," I announced, already pulling up my email application on my laptop. "Complete transaction records, bank statements, confirmation receipts, everything you need to verify the truth." I never mentioned it before because I didn't want recognition or gratitude. I just wanted to help my family during a difficult financial period. But I cannot allow this lie to continue any longer, especially after what happened at your anniversary celebration. I quickly composed a comprehensive email attaching PDF files of 3.5 years' worth of banking transactions, all clearly documenting transfers from my account to theirs. I also included screenshots of the cancellation confirmation from when I had permanently stopped the automatic payments. "Check your email in 10 minutes, I told him firmly, "and then call me back if you want to have an honest conversation."
but only if you're prepared to acknowledge the truth and stop protecting Chloe's deception. I ended the call and waited anxiously for their response. 25 minutes passed without any communication, then 40 minutes. My email notification showed that the message had been opened and the attachments downloaded, but my phone remained completely silent. Finally, around 8:30 that evening, my phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed my mother's name. "How could you do this to your sister?" she demanded immediately, without any greeting or pleasantries. She explained everything to us. How you've always resented her success and happiness, how you've been plotting to make her look dishonest because she finally achieved something meaningful in her career. My heart sank into my stomach. "Mom, did you actually examine the documents I sent? The proof is right there, in black and white, impossible to dispute." "Documents can be manipulated these days," she dismissed my evidence without consideration. "We know our daughter. Chloe would never lie to us about something this important." The irony was almost unbearable. "Mom, please just contact your bank directly. Call them tomorrow morning and ask specifically who has been making those monthly transfers. Ask for the complete transaction history." "We don't need to involve strangers in private family matters," she said stiffly. "Chloe explained that she's been routing the money through your account for business tax purposes. That's why your name appears on some of the paperwork. She said you finally agreed to be a supportive sister and help her with the financial logistics." The elaborate lie took my breath away completely. Chloe had thought quickly and creatively to protect herself, inventing a complex financial arrangement that my parents, with their limited understanding of business banking, might actually believe. "That's not how business taxes work, Mom. What you're describing would actually be tax fraud, and I would never participate in something illegal like that. I'm a licensed marketing professional working with major corporate accounts. I could lose my career and face criminal charges for that kind of financial misconduct." There was a slight hesitation in her voice before she responded, suggesting some doubt was beginning to creep in. "Well, Chloe said you were finally trying to be a more supportive older sister. She said you wanted to help her business succeed." "Mom, please, just call the bank," I repeated firmly, my patience wearing thin. "That's all I'm asking. Just verify the source of those transfers with an official representative." The conversation ended shortly afterward with no resolution and no acknowledgement of the truth I had presented with overwhelming evidence. I spent that entire night alternating between anger, disappointment, and profound grief, wondering if there was any authentic relationship left to salvage with my family, or if years of dysfunction had damaged our bonds beyond repair. 3 days later, Dad called again. His voice was completely different this time, subdued, uncertain, and lacking his previous conviction. "We contacted the bank," he said without any greeting or preamble. "They confirmed that all the transfers came directly from your personal account, not Chloe's, not any kind of joint business account. Yours exclusively." "Yes," I said simply, offering no additional explanation or justification. "Why didn't you tell us it was you all this time?" he asked, and for the first time I could hear genuine vulnerability in his voice. I took a deep breath before responding honestly. "Would you have believed me if I had? You didn't believe me 3 days ago, even with comprehensive documentation and proof right in front of you." He had no answer for that observation. "There's something else you need to know," he continued after a long, uncomfortable pause. "We contacted Chloe again, demanded a complete explanation for why she would claim credit for your financial generosity. She finally broke down and admitted some very difficult truths." I waited silently for him to continue. "She's been unemployed for almost 10 months. The graphic design business never actually existed. She has significant credit card debt from trying to maintain appearances and has been borrowing money from friends and even dating apps to pay basic expenses like rent and groceries." The admission didn't surprise me. I had suspected most of it. But hearing my father finally acknowledge Chloe's deception felt like a small victory. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, genuinely meaning it despite everything that had happened. "No," Dad's voice cracked with emotion. "We're the ones who should be apologizing. We believed what we wanted to believe instead of examining the evidence. And we haven't been fair to you, Madison. Not now, and maybe not ever in your entire life." It was the closest thing to a genuine apology I had ever received from either parent.
I didn't know how to respond to my father's unprecedented admission of fault, so I remained silent, allowing his words to settle between us. "The money," he continued hesitantly, his voice heavy with shame and desperation. "We've become completely dependent on those monthly payments, Madison. Your mother fully retired from substitute teaching because of her arthritis getting worse. With my reduced hours at the construction company, we honestly cannot afford our mortgage payments without that financial support." And there it was. Even after all the revelations, after the beginning of acknowledgement and apology, it still ultimately came down to the money they had grown accustomed to receiving. "I'm not going to resume the payments, Dad," I said firmly, my voice steady and resolved. "Not until we address the real issues in our family. Not until we all sit down together and have completely honest conversations about the past and how we want to move forward in the future." To my genuine surprise, he agreed without argument or negotiation. "Can you come to Denver next weekend? We need to talk, all of us together, face to face. This has gone on far too long." That conversation would change everything in ways none of us could have anticipated. I arrived in Denver the following Friday evening, this time choosing to stay at my parents' house rather than maintaining the emotional distance of a hotel room. The atmosphere was tense and awkward as Mom prepared a simple dinner, speaking only when absolutely necessary for basic coordination. Dad retreated to his home office, emerging only when called for the meal. Chloe arrived 30 minutes late, her eyes visibly red and puffy from recent crying, looking like she might flee at any moment. We ate in uncomfortable silence, the only sounds being the clink of silverware against plates and occasional polite requests to pass condiments or beverages. The weight of unspoken truths hung heavy in the air. Finally, when we had finished eating and Mom began mechanically clearing the dishes, I decided to break the suffocating tension. "We need to talk honestly," I announced. "That's exactly why I'm here. Let's stop pretending everything is normal when clearly nothing about this situation is normal or healthy." Dad nodded grimly. "Living room. Give us 5 minutes to finish cleaning up." We gathered in the formal living room, the space typically reserved for important guests and special occasions. I sat in the wingback armchair while my parents took their usual spots on the sofa. Chloe perched nervously on the edge of the ottoman, looking like she might flee for the door at any moment. "I think we should address the immediate issue first," I began, my voice calm but determined. "Chloe has been taking credit for financial support that I've been providing consistently for 3.5 years. I want to understand why this happened and how we're going to prevent this kind of deception in the future." All eyes turned to my sister, who continued staring at her hands clasped tightly in her lap, avoiding any direct eye contact. "I didn't mean for it to happen initially. That very first time when Mom and Dad received the anonymous transfer, they immediately assumed it was from me. I had mentioned wanting to help them financially once I got established in my career. They were so proud, so genuinely happy and excited. For once in my life, they looked at me the way they always looked at you." "What do you mean, the way they looked at me?" I asked, genuinely confused by her perspective. Chloe looked up for the first time, tears streaming down her face. With respect, with admiration, like I had finally accomplished something truly worthwhile and meaningful, like I was more than just the fun, creative daughter who never quite measured up to your achievements. Mom made a small sound of protest, but Dad placed a restraining hand on her arm, silencing her objection. "I intended to tell them the truth," she continued, her voice breaking with emotion. "But then the next month, another transfer arrived, and they were even more excited about my supposed business success. It became harder and harder to admit the lie without destroying their pride in me. Eventually, I started believing my own story,
Like maybe if I pretended to be successful long enough, it would somehow become reality. But it never did, I said softly, feeling genuine sympathy despite my anger. No, she admitted, her voice cracking. Everything I tried completely fell apart. Every job opportunity, every creative project, every romantic relationship. Meanwhile, you are thriving in ways I couldn't even imagine, earning more money than I thought possible, building this impressive professional life in marketing. Your success made my failures feel even more devastating. My life isn't perfect, Chloe. Not even close to perfect. At least you have genuine accomplishments, she burst out passionately. At least you know exactly who you are and what you're exceptionally good at. I've spent my entire adult life being the fun one, the artistic one, the baby of the family, who everyone loves but no one really respects. When it comes to actual real-world achievements, I have absolutely nothing to show for myself. Her raw honesty created a profound silence in the room. I looked at my parents, carefully watching their reactions to these revelations. Mom was crying silently while Dad stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched with obvious discomfort. I think this goes much deeper than just the money, I said carefully, choosing my words with precision. This is fundamentally about how we were raised, the specific roles we were assigned in this family, and the different expectations that were placed on each of us from childhood. I turned to address my parents directly. My entire childhood, I felt like I was significantly less important than Chloe. Every sacrifice was automatically expected of me because I was the responsible older sister. Every achievement was minimized or dismissed because it was simply what you expected from me. Meanwhile, Chloe was celebrated enthusiastically for the smallest accomplishments, forgiven immediately for every mistake, and given emotional support that I never received. Mom began shaking her head in denial, but Dad stopped her intervention once again. "Let her speak completely," he said quietly. "We need to hear all of this." So I spoke my truth. I told them about the piano recital they had missed because of Chloe's minor cold, the birthdays that felt like obligations rather than celebrations of my existence, the constant message that my needs and feelings came second to everyone else. I described the profound loneliness of college years without their emotional or financial support, the hurt of graduation ceremonies where Chloe's future dominated every conversation, the decades of feeling invisible unless I was being useful or productive in some way. When I finished, the silence was absolutely deafening. Then, to my complete surprise, Dad spoke with unprecedented honesty. He said, "You're absolutely right, Madison. We failed you terribly, not because we didn't love you, but because we took your strength and independence for granted. You were always so capable, so self-sufficient and determined. Chloe seemed to need us more constantly, so we gave her more attention and support. We never seriously considered that you needed us too, just in different ways than she did." His acknowledgement broke something fundamental open inside me. Tears I had suppressed for decades finally flowed freely and openly. All I ever wanted was for you to be proud of me, not because I was useful or successful or responsible, but simply because I was your daughter too.
Mom moved from the sofa to kneel beside my chair, taking my hands in hers with a tenderness I hadn't experienced since early childhood. "We were so wrong," she admitted, her voice breaking with genuine remorse. "So incredibly wrong about everything. You deserved so much better from us. Both of you deserved better parents than we were." She looked between Chloe and me with tears streaming down her face. "We thought we were doing our best, but we created this terrible competition between you two. We made Madison feel unloved and unappreciated while making Chloe feel inadequate and insecure. What kind of parents create that kind of damage?" "Human ones," I said gently, squeezing her hands. "Imperfect people doing their best with limited understanding, just like all of us." The conversation continued well past midnight. Chloe tearfully admitted her deep envy of my academic success and financial stability.
I confessed my lifelong jealousy of her creativity and the seemingly unconditional love she received from our parents. Our parents acknowledged their significant role in creating and reinforcing these destructive dynamics, often completely unconsciously and with the best of intentions. By dawn, we were emotionally exhausted, but somehow felt lighter than we had in years. Nothing had been completely resolved, but the truth had finally been spoken aloud after decades of painful silence and misunderstanding. It was genuinely a beginning, not an ending. Before I left Denver that Sunday afternoon, I had individual, private conversations with each family member to establish new boundaries and expectations. With Chloe, I set clear boundaries around money and financial requests, but offered to help her find professional career counseling and possibly internship opportunities in Denver if she was serious about making genuine changes in her life. "I want to support your growth," I told her, "but I won't enable dishonesty or irresponsibility anymore. That doesn't help either of us." With Mom, I accepted her tearful apology and promised more frequent visits and phone calls, but also made it crystal clear that our relationship needed to become more reciprocal and balanced. "I want to hear about your life, your interests, your thoughts, not just updates about Chloe or requests for help with problems." With Dad, I was most direct and specific about my expectations. "I will not resume the monthly payments," I told him firmly. That created an unhealthy dynamic that enabled Chloe's deception and made everyone dependent on an unsustainable arrangement. "But I will help you and Mom create a realistic budget and retirement plan based on your actual income. And for genuine emergencies, I will always be available to help." He nodded, accepting my terms without argument or negotiation. "I'm proud of you, Madison," he said, his voice filled with emotion I had never heard before. "Not because of your money or your impressive job title, but because of who you are as a person. Your strength, your integrity, your generosity, despite how we treated you. I should have told you that every single day of your life." "Better late than never," I replied, allowing him to pull me into a proper, meaningful hug for what felt like the first time in my adult life. As for Chloe, our private conversation revealed just how much personal healing and growth she needed to undertake. The family patterns established during our childhood had left her emotionally insecure and financially dependent, unable to develop her own independent identity separate from being the favored, protected child. "I honestly don't know who I am without their constant approval and support," she admitted with devastating honesty. "You had to become independent and self-sufficient because they pushed you toward that. I never learned those skills because they always protected me from real consequences and challenges." "Then maybe discovering your authentic self is exactly what you need to focus on now. Finding out who Chloe is when she's standing completely on her own, making her own choices, facing her own challenges, and taking responsibility for her own life." She agreed to enter therapy and to accept a retail position at a local department store to begin addressing her accumulated debt responsibly. Small steps, but significant ones toward genuine independence and personal honesty. None of us harbored unrealistic illusions that 4 days of difficult conversations could magically undo decades of deeply entrenched dysfunctional family patterns. But for the first time in my entire life, I left Denver feeling genuinely hopeful that meaningful change was possible. Not perfect resolution or complete healing, but authentic progress toward healthier relationships. 2 years have passed since that life-changing weekend in Denver, and so much has evolved in ways both dramatic and subtle. My career continued to flourish beyond my expectations. Last year, I was promoted to Senior Vice President of Strategic Marketing at Sterling Digital, managing a team of 15 talented professionals and overseeing client portfolios worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The promotion came with another substantial salary increase, but this time I prioritized work-life balance alongside professional success. I started leaving the office by 6:30 most evenings instead of working until 9 or 10. I began dating more seriously and thoughtfully. recently meeting a wonderful environmental lawyer named Ethan, who understands my professional drive but encourages me to make space for joy, relaxation, and personal relationships. Chloe has undergone perhaps the most dramatic transformation of anyone in our family. After 8 months of consistent therapy and working in retail sales, she discovered a genuine talent for visual merchandising and store design. She enrolled in a professional certificate program and now works as a visual merchandising coordinator for a regional department store chain. The position perfectly suits her creative instincts while providing the structure and accountability she desperately needed. She still occasionally struggles with comparing herself to my achievements, but much less frequently and with significantly more emotional maturity and self-awareness. She has been steadily repaying her accumulated debts and recently moved into her own one-bedroom apartment without any financial assistance from family members. My parents have successfully adjusted to their new financial reality with grace and determination. Dad increased his work hours slightly when his health improved, and Mom took on a few select tutoring students whose company she genuinely enjoys. They downsized to a smaller, more manageable house, which reduced their mortgage payment substantially and eliminated most of their financial stress. For their anniversary this year, I took them on a weekend trip to the Colorado mountains, focused entirely on creating positive memories together rather than expensive material gifts. The healing process has definitely not been linear or simple. We've experienced setbacks, difficult moments, and occasional reversions to old patterns of behavior. Dad sometimes slips into old habits of comparing Chloe and me inappropriately. Mom occasionally coddles Chloe out of long-established habit. Old emotional wounds don't disappear overnight, and sometimes innocent comments unexpectedly reopen them. The crucial difference is that now we address these dynamics openly and directly. We name them when they occur. We discuss them honestly. We apologize when necessary and forgive when possible. We are learning slowly and imperfectly how to function as a healthier, more balanced family.
My own healing journey required significant professional support as well. Weekly sessions with Dr. Martinez, a therapist specializing in family trauma and attachment issues, helped me recognize how profoundly my childhood experiences had shaped my adult behaviors and relationship patterns. My workaholic tendencies, difficulty accepting genuine compliments, extreme reluctance to ask for help, and wariness in romantic relationships all stemmed directly from those early childhood messages about my worth being tied exclusively to my usefulness and productivity. The goal isn't to forget the past or pretend it didn't happen, Dr. Martinez explained during one of our breakthrough sessions. The goal is to understand how those experiences shaped you, recognize which patterns serve you well, and consciously release the ones that limit your growth and happiness. Gradually, I learned to establish healthy boundaries without experiencing overwhelming guilt. I practiced receiving compliments without immediate deflection or dismissal. I allowed myself to need other people and to express those needs openly and directly. Most importantly, I began to recognize that vulnerability isn't weakness, but rather a form of courage and authentic connection. Perhaps the most profound shift came in how I fundamentally viewed myself and my inherent worth. For so many years, I had defined my entire value through achievement, productivity, and financial success. If I wasn't excelling professionally, I felt like I was failing as a person. If I wasn't useful to others, I believed I was worthless. Breaking free from that limiting mindset has been my greatest personal challenge and my most meaningful victory. I no longer send regular monthly payments to my parents, but I do contribute to a family emergency fund that we established together with complete transparency. Clear boundaries and open communication have replaced secretive transfers and unspoken obligations. We discuss financial matters openly and honestly, acknowledging that money in our family had become unhealthily tangled with love, worth, and power dynamics. Chloe and I speak every week now, and our conversations have become increasingly honest, supportive, and genuinely caring. We're finally learning to be sisters without constant competition, to celebrate each other's unique strengths without destructive comparison.
Last month, she called just to tell me how proud she was of how I handled a particularly difficult client crisis I had mentioned during our previous conversation. That simple acknowledgement and support meant more to me than any professional award or salary increase ever could. My relationship with my parents has evolved into something much more adult, equal, and mutually respectful. They still occasionally fall into old communication patterns, but now I can gently point this out without anger, resentment, or emotional shutdown. Dad has become much more expressive with his pride in both of his daughters, making conscious efforts to acknowledge our different types of success and contributions. Mom calls regularly just to chat about life, not only when she needs something or wants to discuss Chloe's latest developments. The transformation hasn't been easy or quick, but it's been genuine and lasting. This journey has taught me several crucial life lessons that I carry with me every day. Sometimes you have to completely break a destructive pattern in order to heal it effectively. Sometimes you have to stand firm in your truth, even when the people you love most resist hearing it or accepting it. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is refuse to participate in dynamics that ultimately hurt everyone involved, including yourself. I've learned that genuine forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting painful experiences or pretending that harm never occurred. True forgiveness means choosing to move forward without allowing past wounds to completely determine your future relationships and choices. It means recognizing that people can change and grow when given the proper opportunity, motivation, and support to do so. Most importantly, I've learned that my inherent value was never dependent on what I could provide, achieve, or endure in silence. My worth was always inherent and unconditional, just as Chloe's was, just as everyone's is. We were both deserving of love, recognition, and genuine support from the beginning, just in different ways that our parents initially struggled to understand and provide. Last weekend, I attended Chloe's solo art exhibition at a small gallery in downtown Denver. It was a modest venue, but her work was displayed beautifully, and she had invited friends, coworkers, and family members to celebrate this significant milestone in her artistic journey. During her brief speech to the gathered audience, she mentioned how grateful she was for the support of her family, especially her older sister, who had taught her the importance of honesty, integrity, and perseverance through difficult times. Madison showed me that real strength isn't about avoiding challenges, but about facing them with courage and growing from them, she said, looking directly at me with tears in her eyes. Dad was there too, beaming with pride as he listened to Chloe speak about her artistic vision and personal growth. When several people complimented him on having such talented and accomplished daughters, he responded with equal enthusiasm about both of us. Madison has built an incredible career in marketing, and Chloe has discovered her authentic voice as an artist. We're proud of both of them for very different reasons. Hearing him speak about us with equal pride and genuine appreciation felt like receiving a gift I had waited my entire life to unwrap. As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how dramatically our family dynamics had shifted. We still had work to do, growth to continue, and challenges to navigate. But we were finally building something authentic and healthy together. The little girl who had felt invisible and unworthy had finally found her voice and her value. The family that had been trapped in destructive patterns had learned to communicate with honesty and love. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan asking about the art exhibition. "How did it go? I can't wait to hear all about it when you get home." I smiled, realizing that I now had someone in my life who genuinely cared about my experiences and wanted to celebrate my happiness. Someone who valued me for who I was, not for what I could provide or achieve in silence. It was beautiful. Chloe was amazing, and our whole family was there supporting her. I'll tell you everything when I get back.
Today marks exactly 3 years since that devastating anniversary party that changed everything. As I sit in my home office, looking out at the Denver skyline, I'm preparing for another family gathering. But this time, everything is different. Tomorrow is Mom's 60th birthday, and we're hosting a celebration at my apartment. Not because I'm trying to prove anything or buy their love, but because I genuinely want to honor her and share this milestone with people I care about. Ethan is helping me prepare dinner in the kitchen, and I can hear him humming while he chops vegetables. 6 months ago, he moved in with me, and our relationship continues to grow stronger every day. He loves me not for what I accomplish or provide, but for who I am when I'm completely myself. Chloe called this morning excited about the birthday surprise she's creating for Mom, a custom photo album featuring family memories from the past 3 years. Pictures of us actually enjoying each other's company, laughing together, celebrating each other's achievements without competition or resentment. "I included that photo from your promotion celebration," she told me. "The one where you're giving your speech and we're all cheering in the audience. You looked so confident and happy. I'm proud to be your sister, Madison." Those words would have been unimaginable 3 years ago. Dad has been texting me recipe suggestions for Mom's favorite Korean dishes, asking if I need him to pick up any special ingredients. He's become surprisingly involved in family planning, taking initiative instead of leaving everything to the women in the family. My career has reached heights I never dreamed possible. Last month, I was offered a position as Chief Marketing Officer at a Fortune 500 company. The salary and benefits package is extraordinary. But more importantly, the role would allow me to mentor young professionals and build innovative marketing strategies on a national scale. I'm seriously considering the opportunity, not because I need external validation anymore, but because it genuinely excites me and aligns with my personal values and professional goals. The most significant change, however, is internal. I no longer wake up each morning with the crushing weight of feeling like I have to earn my right to exist. I don't measure my worth by my productivity or usefulness to others. I've learned to say no without guilt when requests don't align with my boundaries or priorities. I ask for help when I need it. I celebrate my achievements openly and accept compliments gracefully. Most importantly, I've learned to enjoy my life instead of just surviving it. Last week, I took a spontaneous long weekend vacation with Ethan to visit his family in Colorado Springs. We hiked in the mountains, had dinner with his parents, and spent hours just talking and laughing together. His family welcomed me warmly, asking genuine questions about my work and interests. His mother told me she was proud of what I had accomplished professionally, but also mentioned how much she enjoyed my sense of humor and kindness. Being valued for my personality and character instead of my achievements felt revolutionary. When we returned to Denver, I found a card in my mailbox from Chloe. Inside was a drawing she had made of the two of us as children, playing together in our backyard. At the bottom, she had written, "Thank you for teaching me that honesty is more important than approval. I love you, sister." I kept that card on my refrigerator for weeks, reading it whenever I needed a reminder of how far we had all come. My relationship with my parents has become something I never thought possible. Genuine friendship between adults who respect and enjoy each other's company. We have dinner together twice a month, not out of obligation, but because we actually want to spend time together. Dad asks my advice about retirement planning and investment strategies. Mom shares her thoughts on current events and asks about my relationship with Ethan. They remember important dates in my life and celebrate my happiness without constantly redirecting attention to Chloe. 2 months ago, Dad called just to tell me he had seen an article about my company in the business section of the newspaper and wanted to say how proud he was of my professional success. "I should have told you this years ago, but you've always been remarkable, Madison. Your determination, your intelligence, your integrity, those qualities made you who you are today, and we failed to recognize them properly when you needed to hear it most." That conversation lasted 2 hours, during which we talked about my childhood, his regrets, and our hopes for continued healing and growth as a family. The financial aspects of our relationship have been completely restructured with transparency and clear boundaries. I established a modest family emergency fund that all of us can access for genuine crises, but the days of secret payments and unacknowledged support are permanently over. My parents have successfully adjusted their lifestyle to match their actual income, and they seem happier and more relaxed without the pressure of maintaining appearances they couldn't afford. Chloe has been consistently employed for 18 months now, and recently received a promotion to lead visual merchandiser. She's saving money for the first time in her adult life and talks about eventually opening her own design consultation business. But this time, she told me with a laugh, I'll have actual clients and honest financial records before I tell anyone about my success. Our weekly phone calls have become one of my favorite parts of each week. We share both challenges and victories, offer each other advice and support, and sometimes just talk about movies or books we've enjoyed. Last month, when I was stressed about a difficult client presentation, she called me the night before just to wish me luck and remind me of my strengths. "You've got this, Madison," she said confidently. "You're brilliant at what you do, and you prepare better than anyone I know. Trust yourself." Having my sister believe in me and express that belief openly felt like receiving a gift I had waited 30 years to unwrap. As I finish writing this story, I want to say something to anyone who might be reading and recognizing themselves in my experience. If you have ever felt invisible in your own family, if you have carried the weight of unrealistic expectations while watching others receive unconditional love and support, if you have given more than you received and wondered if you were worthy of genuine care and appreciation, know this: you are not alone in this experience. Your feelings are completely valid and understandable. Your needs matter just as much as everyone else's. And it is never too late to speak your truth, establish healthy boundaries, and demand the respect and love you deserve. Sometimes you have to lose something precious to find yourself. Sometimes you have to break destructive patterns to create space for healing and growth. When you finally find yourself, your authentic voice, your inherent worth, your genuine happiness, the relationships that truly matter will find their way back to you. Not in the form you expected or hoped for, but in the form you actually deserve. Tomorrow, when my family gathers to celebrate Mom's birthday, we'll be celebrating more than just another year of her life. We'll be celebrating 3 years of honesty, growth, courage, and the hard work of becoming better people for ourselves and each other. We'll be celebrating the fact that families can heal, people can change, and love can grow stronger when it's built on truth instead of illusion. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? Has it changed your relationships for the better? Share your experiences in the comments below, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need these words of hope and encouragement. Thank you for following my journey of reclaiming my self-worth and building the life I truly deserve. Remember that your value is not determined by what you give to others, but by who you are as a unique and precious human being. You are enough, exactly as you are.